and Chill channel where we combine history and ASMR. And today I was thinking of doing a rework of one of my very old videos because I thought that it could have been done better. Anyways, yeah, I had prepared 20 facts about World War One, and I thought these facts were kind of interesting, so I surely hope you find them interesting as well. Anyways, let's get into it, and starting off with the first fact. Fact number one, that is, chewing gum did already exist in World War One. Spearmint flavored gum was tested to put into rations of soldiers. It was tested to prevent feelings of hunger, which obviously backfired because nowadays we know that chewing gum actually induces hunger. Yeah, so I thought that would be that was a little fun fact because I would not associate like gum to World War One, but apparently it did exist, and yeah, as I already said, it was even rationed to the soldiers. So yeah, moving on to fact number two. World War One got triggered by the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austro-Hungarian Empire, and he was killed by a Serbian nationalist. I don't really recall the exact name of the Serbian nationalist who killed him, but I do know that he was part of the Black Hand movement, I think they were called. Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, I blacked out there for a while, but yeah, so moving on to fact number three. On the outbreak of the war, Europe was divided into two alliances. The first alliance was the Triple Entente, which consisted out of France, Great Britain, and Russia. And the second alliance was the Triple Alliance, which was Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. Sorry. Fact number four. The Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war on Serbia. This is regarded as one of the causes of the start of the Great War. Austro-Hungarian Empire were included in the Triple Alliance, and Serbia was allied to Russia, part of the Triple Entente, which I mentioned in fact number three. Because a lot of people, they think that Germany started World War One, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, as you can see. Anyway, moving on. Fact number five. In the beginning of the war, soldiers were fitted with soft hats rather than hard helmets. This was because generals and tacticians were not prepared for modern warfare. I mean, like, yeah, back then that was modern warfare, you know. Later, things changed and armies were equipped with steel helmets. And in my opinion, the German style helm was, was superior to like the other helmets because it also like protected the neck, and yeah, the neck is pretty vital if you ask me. So yeah, you can kind of like imagine armies going to war with nothing but soft hats. I mean, you couldn't imagine it nowadays, but back then, yeah, they just anticipated a whole different kind of warfare than what they actually got. So yeah, moving on. Fact number six. Chemical weapons were first used on a large scale in the First World War. They were first used on a large scale, but they were not first used ever like in warfare because yeah, they were already, I think, in the Byzantine Empire had this like famous weapon, and I forgot the name. But anyways, It's also like a form of chemical warfare, but in the First World War, it was the first war that was actually used on a large scale, which obviously is not a good thing. But yeah, moving on. Before gas mask, fact number 7. Before gas mask, soldiers urinated in their handkerchief or pieces of clothing. They put this in front of their mouths and ran away from the chlorine gas clouds. The ammonia in the urine neutralizes the chlorine gas, making it not as damaging to your airways. Fact number 8. The Battle of the Somme was the bloodiest battle of World War One. Great Britain suffered 460,000 casualties. France suffered 200,000 casualties, and Germany suffered 500,000 casualties. Only on the very first day alone, Great Britain lost 60,000 men, which is a very bloody battle, if you ask me. But yeah, moving on to fact number 9. Bloody April is the nickname for an operation of the Royal Flying Corps. This was to provide air support in the Battle of Arras. New pilots had an estimated life expectancy of 1 to 2 days, and the British suffered for a casualty amount 5 times higher than the Germans. The operation, however, was successful. But yeah, I mean, like, it was a successful operation, but obviously at a very high cost. So that's why they nicknamed it Bloody April, because of all the casualties. Fact number 10. The Battle of Verdun was the longest battle of the First World War. It lasted up to 10 months. And I'm also quite sure there's a video game called Verdun, and I have played it on a PlayStation, and it's actually pretty cool. So if you like those kind of things, look it up, it's kind of cool. Also, I drove past Verdun in winter, I think, like before this whole COVID thing. So yeah, anyway, I'm just rambling, I'm sorry. Fact number 11. The original plan for Germany to conquer France was called the Schlieffen Plan. Through Belgium, they wanted to conquer France in 6 weeks. Germany did this to prevent a two-front war. The plan obviously failed horribly. Fact number 12. In total, 13.4 million Germans were mobilized. That's actually a really high number if you think about it, because I live in Belgium and our entire population is like 11 million people, I think. So yeah, 13.4 million Germans that were mobilized. That's a large army. Anyways, moving on. Fact number 13. The Battle of Tannenberg was a German victory over the Russians. Yeah, it was a pretty important victory, and also like later in World War II, this Battle of Tannenberg was often used as propaganda in Nazi Germany. Fact number 14. Tanks were first used in World War I in the Battle of the Somme. Nicknamed tank. The nickname tank came from water tanks used to deceive German spies. The original name for a tank was a landship. And yeah, basically they thought they came up with the name tank through radio communication to make sure that the German spies who would wiretap the communication lines had no suspicion of like a dreadful weapon such as a tank is, because they wanted to make them think it was about water tanks, or fuel tanks or anything but of the sort. So yeah, which is kind of clever, and also like if they would have used like names such as land ships, the German spies would probably have suspected something was terrifying could come to the battlefield, because a land ship, the word itself, I mean, like, it kind of speaks to the imagination, I guess. But yeah, moving on to fact number 15. Generals were banned from going over the top. Educating a general was too expensive to be put at risk. And this is kind of like some. I think you can like kind of argue about this one, but if you watch movies from World War One or series or documentaries or stuff like that, there's often like they often criticize higher people that were higher in rank, because they didn't have to like charge into the battle, but would order other people to do so. But yeah, as I already said, the training of generals was very expensive, but I kind of like can imagine that some generals actually were happy not to have to go over the top as well. So yeah, but mostly the generals also were like kind of brave people, I guess. But yeah, moving on. Also, like in regards to the tanks, the previous fact number 14. Not sure if you guys played Battlefield 1, but I used to play Battlefield 1 a lot, and there was this tank called the Saint-Chamond. If you guys play Battlefield 1, I highly recommend to try the tank Saint-Chamond. It's a French tank, and you have this thing like you can press the button, the left arrow button, and you release a pigeon, and then the whole objective area would get bombarded by artillery. And yeah, which is kind of cool, just a tip if you play the game. But anyways, moving on to fact number 16. World War I was the trigger of the Russian Revolution in February 1917. The Red Army versus the Tsarists. Yeah, that basically was like the Russian Revolution. The Red Army obviously won the war, won the conflict, or the war, and Russia became the Soviet Union. So you can kind of like see like the direct link of the consequences of World War One and then World War Two, and actually like the entire century to come. I mean, like, yeah, basically because the Soviet Union obviously had a large impact in the whole 20th century. So yeah, and it originated because of the First World War. Moving on to fact number 17. The Great War changed the way society looked at mental illnesses. Lots of soldiers were confronted with shell shock, a hypertension of the nerve system induced by the traumatic event of being bombed for hours. It showed that any person can develop a mental illness in certain conditions, which proved that there could be conditions that could also reduce mental illnesses. That is an interesting one, because I am interested in psychology as well. And I guess like in World War One, there were a lot of traumatized young men who suffered PTSD, and yeah, people could witness their fellow members of the town could go to war, and they returned like entirely devastated by the war. And then obviously they started to think that everybody could get these serious issues. And yeah, it kind of like changed the perspective on mental illnesses as a whole, which back then was kind of like a groundbreaking factor in psychology or in psychology. The other word I'm looking for is yeah, I can't remember the word. Anyways, in psychology. But moving on, Fact number 18. Plastic surgery was invented in World War I. This was because of the mutilation of a lot of soldiers. The French had a term for these people. They were called les gueules cassées, which means broken faces. And I saw some of the images of young men that were, they had mutilated faces because of artillery fire and stuff like that, and they would have no jaw at all. And yeah, basically doctors came up with ways to make it appear that they have still have a jaw and stuff like that, which kind of is like the early form of plastic surgery, which is also kind of interesting, I guess, because plastic surgery right now is a really big industry. Yeah, I'm sorry for the bike. If you guys can hear that, I have no idea. But moving on to fact number 19. Dogfighting is a term for two planes fighting in the air. The term was first used in World War I because to increase maneuverability during the turning in the fights, the pilots would turn off their engine and started them back up, which would make a dog barking type of noise, hence the term dogfighting. And as you guys know, dogfighting or just like aerial warfare was new in World War I. So yeah, that's also something that originated in World War I. It's also like shows the innovation in technology throughout this whole entire conflict. And now you also know that dog barking comes from the sound of the engine that the engine makes. I thought that was interesting one. That was an interesting one. Moving on to the last fact. Sergeant Stully, fact number 20. Sergeant Stully was a dog who got promoted to sergeant because he would warn fellow soldiers about incoming artillery. A dog could hear the bombs coming before a human can. Which makes a lot of sense because a dog has much better hearing than a human, obviously. I remember back when I was a kid, I used to have a dog, and whenever I was being loud, my mother asked me to quiet down because because the dog would have a hard time because he would hear better. And that always worked because I always went from being loud to being quiet in sympathy of the dog. But yeah, Sergeant Stully, a sergeant who was a dog in World War I. Anyways, that were all the facts that I prepared for today. I mean, I prepared them a long time ago, as already mentioned, but I redid the video today. I really hope you thought they were interesting because I think World War I is a very interesting topic. Because, as I already mentioned a lot of times, World War I actually it kind of shaped the entire 20th century, in so many ways. Be it the birth of the Soviet Union, start of aerial warfare, the Treaty of Versailles, which led to World War II, basically, in a way. So I'll definitely put out another video about World War I, kind of get more into the specifics. So if you guys like that, leave it in the comments if you would want to see more about World War I. I already know that you want to see more about the Vietnam War, and I am working on that as well. But I also work full time, so it kind of sometimes is hard to find free time to do decent research to provide good videos. But I'll manage, I think. So, anyways, if you like the video, please like. If you like these kind of videos, please subscribe. That always means a lot. And I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.